Hello, my name is Matthew Hein. I'm the Chief Product Officer at RDXWorks, the creators of the Radix network. I'm here to talk to you about the Babylon wallet. With the Babylon upgrade to the Radix mainnet, we have a brand new wallet application that's designed to run on iOS and Android. Not only is this new application designed to work with the Babylon network, but it's also the first rethink of what a crypto wallet really should be to be ready for mainstream usage. So it changes the way we think about accounts and logins and connecting to dApps and all these things. And the Babylon network launch comes with V1.0 of that wallet that has some of the most essential features for developers and for users. And I'd like to walk you through some of those features to get an idea of what the Babylon wallet is all about in its V1.0 form. So, first thing I'd like to start with is downloading and setting up the wallet to begin with. And we start with that on this webpage. If you go to wallet.radixdlt.com, you'll find the official links to get the Radix wallet. You can always come back to wallet.radixdlt.com to make sure you're getting only the correct Radix wallet, not something that a scammer is trying to put together for you. And you'll have, and not only can you download the wallet there, but the web page itself is designed basically as a Web3 dApp to help lead you through setting up the wallet, which is quite cool. So the first step is getting the wallet app itself. So it is an application for iOS and Android, and we provide a QR code that makes it really easy for you to scan from your phone and be taken directly to the App Store to get that application. There's also some information here about if you want to migrate from your Olympia account. We've got a separate video that talks about it, that whole process, but let's focus on setting up the Babylon wallet from scratch. So after you get that wallet app, I won't show you what that looks like because everyone knows what it's like to get an application from the App Store. But once you've installed that wallet app on your phone, you will have this icon. So you've got the Radix wallet application loaded on your phone, and I'll show you what it's like to start with that from the beginning. So if we launch the application, you'll be asked if you're a new Radix wallet user or if you want to restore the wallet from backup. We'll talk about backups in another video, but for now, let's say we're just getting started from scratch. So I say I'm a new Radix wallet user. It's going to go straight to creating your first account, which is really easy. Your first account is your first thing that will hold tokens on the Radix network and allow you to start doing things on the network. So let me just call this my first Babylon account. Hit continue. Creates the account, and that's all there is to it. So we're now on the main screen of the wallet application, and you can see that first account that I've created listed there, and you can see its address on the Radix network. So that's basically the setup of the wallet. I've now got a Radix wallet. I'm connecting to the Radix network. I've got an account address, and I can start doing transactions. But there's another step here on the wallet setup page, which is quite important because you can't just do everything on your mobile phone. In fact, what we found is that the vast majority of people doing Web3 and DeFi today are doing that on their desktop, which is why MetaMask focused on doing this browser extension wallet. The problem is that an actual wallet that's holding your funds in a browser extension is kind of crazy. It's not a very secure way of holding a seed phrase. The user experience is terrible, and basically just no one is used to the idea of a browser extension with its own user interface and doing all the stuff in there. So what we want to do is have a nice, easy to use mobile application that's going to be very familiar to people, but still have the ability of connecting to dApps on your desktop. We're going to have the ability of also connecting to dApps on the mobile itself in a later update, but to begin with, we're really focused on desktop. And to do that, we have something called the Radix Connector Browser extension. Now, this is not a wallet application. It's completely unlike MetaMask. This is just a very, very simple browser extension that sits in the background. You never have to directly interact with it, really. And it just sort of creates the connection between your phone and your desktop browser. It creates a secure P2P connection between your PC and your phone that allows you to interact with dApps on the desktop. So you're going to want to set that up. So we make that very easy. So you click on Install Radix Connector for Chrome. You get taken to the Chrome Web Store. We can add that to Chrome, add extension. And there it is. It's added to Chrome. If I want to, of course, I can pin that there if I want to look at it, but you don't really have to. It'll mostly just pop up if you ever need it for anything, and you don't need it for very much. The other thing you can do, and by the way, over here you can now see that the download page has detected that fact. It goes, I can see that the Radix Connector browser extension is installed. So now you need to go on to the last step of this, which is linking the Radix wallet to that connector, basically creating that secure connection between the two. This is a one-time thing you have to do. It's not as if every single dApp you've got to like reconnect to this. This is something where you do this link, and now your PC and your phone know how to connect to each other from that point forward and do that securely. So I can hit open the linking QR code, and that pops up a little window from the connector extension that shows a QR code to do that link. So now in my Radix wallet, I can go to that gear icon in the upper right for settings, and you can see I'm prompted to link your wallet to a desktop browser. So I hit that button for link to connector, and this is now going to bring up my phone camera. So I'll just scan that QR code. And now I can give it a name. We name it because you can connect to multiple browser extensions if you want. Let's say if you had 2 different PCs that you wanted to be able to use, you can connect to different browser extensions on each one of those. So let me set this to like Chrome on my main Mac. And the window goes away. So what just happened right there was an exchange of encryption keys, and now my phone and PC just connected to each other P2P over the Wi-Fi connection, but it could have been anything. I could be on cell phone connection, I could have arbitrary network conditions. Those two find each other, verify that link, and now we're good to go. So you can see that on the download page, now both of those steps are checked off. We're all set up. You've got the wallet, you've got the connector extension, and you're ready to use dApps and various other things on the Radix network. Before I go on, I'm going to create another account. So you've got one account, but you're not limited to one account. In fact, I think what a lot of people in DeFi found out is that there's actually a lot of value in having multiple accounts. But the problem is the wallets don't really make this easy for you. It's like every time you connect to a dApp, everything is in terms of just that one account. It's like you are your account. Whereas on Radix, we separate these things. You are not your accounts. You are a person that can have multiple accounts for different reasons, and you can share those things, as we'll see a little bit later. So let's create a second account. Let's make this my second account. Once again, super easy. So you can see it was doing a quick biometrics check there. So this is basically providing secure control of those accounts on the phone by protecting the ability to sign these things behind the biometrics on the phone. And now we've got two different accounts managed through the Radix wallet. So we're pretty well set up right now. For people that have been in crypto for a while, you might be asking the question, where's my seed phrase at this point? Normally with MetaMask and other things, this is like the first thing they put in front of you is like, hey, here's the seed phrase, make sure you write this down, et cetera, et cetera. What we found is that's a pretty bad user experience. I mean, for 2 reasons. For one thing, no one likes seed phrases and they have to back these things up and the security of that. And then also having to deal with this right up front when you're creating accounts is a little bit silly because when you're first creating the account, it doesn't really have any meaning. Right now, if I were to lose my phone, who cares? I didn't have any of these things in these accounts. They didn't do anything. So what we do is we actually there is a seed phrase, but we put off prompting you about this until you actually have something in the account. So when we actually have multi-factor support in the wallet, we already have it on the Radix network at Babylon, but it's going to take a little bit of time for us to actually implement all of the UI stuff to have a really nice multi-factor control and multi-factor recovery scheme in the wallet UI itself. So until we have that, the wallet's kind of in old-fashioned mode. It's like there's a seed phrase on here. That seed phrase is used to sign accounts. And if you do lose your phone, you're going to have to re-enter the seed phrase to be able to recover access to those accounts, just like every other crypto wallet. But we don't push it in front of you right in the beginning. We delay that prompt until we actually have some tokens, as you'll see in another video. So that's it for setup. Now, the next thing I want to go through is creating a Ledger hardware-based account. So you've seen what it looks like to create a general software account and hold that on your phone, but there may be a reason why, particularly until we have multi-factor, it may be that you want to have the security of using a hardware Ledger device to create that account. So we enable that for now, and then later on, once we have multi-factor, the Ledger device becomes just one of the many factors you can apply. But let's show you what it looks like to set up a Ledger account right now on the initial v1.0 version. So back over here, same process of saying create a new account over on the phone on the right. And let me call this my super secure account. And I turn on this switch for create with Ledger hardware wallet. When I do that, it's got a little bit of a different process. So now it goes, okay, now I need to know which hardware device you want to use to create that account. Currently, I haven't set up any Ledger devices in my phone at all. So it's saying, well, I need to add a Ledger device before I can create an account with one. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll hit add Ledger device. And it gives me a little of instructions where I need to connect it to my PC and have everything running. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, one thing to note here before I continue is that there is a new Ledger app that you need to download for the Babylon network. So if you go to Ledger Live, you're going to need to look for the Radix Babylon app. This is different than the original Radix app that we had for the Olympia network. That version of the app will not work anymore on the Babylon network. You have to use the new version. To begin with, that app is going to be in developer mode, just like the Olympia one was, which means you have to go in your Ledger Live settings, go into experimental, and turn on developer mode. That means that this hasn't been audited yet fully by Ledger. You use it at your own risk, all the normal caveats of this, but this is the only way we can get it in right in the beginning. We wanted to make sure that we had support for Ledger users right on day one of Babylon without having to go to side loading. So developer mode allows us to do that for right now. And we're of course going to be seeking getting the audit done so that we can move to a full proper listing in Ledger Live for the Babylon app. So I've already done that. I've got the Babylon app on my Ledger device. I already have that app launched and running. So now I will tap continue on my phone. And you can see it's now popped up a browser tab. So what happened here is that my phone is talking through the connector extension and saying, hey, I'm going to need to do an interaction with the Ledger device. And we do that via USB with my PC. We don't directly connect the Ledger device to the phone. The reason we did it that way is because basically the most important thing about Ledger support for us was making sure that we supported the greatest number of devices and made sure that Ledger users on Olympia had a path forward on Babylon. So there are a number of devices that cannot connect directly to a mobile phone. They only connect via USB to a PC. We had to support those. And so we just made that the least common denominator. We were focused on just doing the USB connection. In the future, some of this may change with multi-factor. A lot of the options change on this stuff, but for now, this is the support that we've got. But you can see that you can connect a Ledger S, S Plus, or Nano X hardware wallet device. So I will click continue over here. And it just made a connection to my Ledger device since I already had it connected and I already had the app logged in or already connected and my PIN entered. It went ahead and made that request to the device and says, cool, I now know which device this is and I can create an account with it. If there was a problem, it would have prompted me. It said, hey, it looks like you don't have the Ledger app open, or it might need permissions for USB connection, but all that stuff I've done already. So once you do this, you move on to naming this device. So let me just call this my Black Nano, so I can remember it. You can have multiple hardware Ledger devices if you want. So if you want to create another device, you can choose another one. You can give it another name, and it'll prompt you with that name whenever you need to sign. So I'll go ahead. Now this is added to my list of devices that I can choose from, and I can now finish the account creation process. So I hit continue. It's now deriving that account using the device. That was actually another connection to the device. It just did automatically over my Radix connection link, and the account has been created. So now if I go back to my account list, I can see I have those first two software accounts that I created before, and now I have a third account that you can see has that little tag on it that says Ledger, so I can remember that that's a hardware-enabled device. Now, whenever I need to sign any transactions that include that particular account, the wallet will know, okay, I need to ask for my Black Nano because that's the device associated with this account. It'll prompt me to connect that. It'll get the signatures it needs and then do the transaction. So it's quite straightforward. Another thing to keep in track, to be aware of, is that even though right now it's kind of like we've got software accounts and we've got Ledger accounts, more or less like a traditional crypto wallet, In the future, when we add multi-factor support in the UI in the wallet, that's going to change. Now, none of those accounts are really special. We can migrate all of those accounts to multi-factor control, and there's no such difference between a software account and a hardware account. You'll still keep that same account address, but now you can just choose, do you want to use a Ledger device to sign? Do you want it as your recovery factor? Do you want a combination of things? All those options will be able to be applied to that account, and they all will work however you want. So quite straightforward. So that's Ledger account usage. The next thing I want to talk about is dApps, personas, and transactions. Basically, to show you what can the wallet do once it's set up, like what's the general interaction of using dApps on the Radix network and logging in and doing all that kind of normal stuff that makes up Web3 and DeFi every day. We can do that with an application that we've created. So if you're on the download page, at the bottom here, it'll give you some applications that the Radix team has built, the RDixWorks team has built. And the first one of those is the Gumball Club. And I'm going to switch over to that now. The Gumball Club is a very simple little example dApp that just shows you what basically it feels like to do this stuff on Radix. It's a little bit different. You've got a mobile wallet, we've got personas, we've got all these different sorts of things. You've got multiple accounts. And the Gumball Club allows you to experience those differences and see how easy and intuitive it is to do stuff on the Radix network. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is actually cheat just a little bit. So obviously to do any transactions on the Radix network, you're going to need a little bit of XRD token. Normally this would be, go to an exchange someplace else, buy some XRD. But I'm going to cheat and use my special mode here. I'm going to go into this account and use a feature that you won't see in your wallet, which is get some test tokens. So this is running on a Radix testnet right now because we're not actually on mainnet yet. So I can just use a faucet to get some free XRD. And there we go. So now I've got 10,000 XRD in my account that I have to play with. Okay, so now we can do some stuff with Gumball Club. So over here on the dApp webpage, the first thing I'm going to want to do is to connect. You're going to see this Radix Connect button in the corner. This is part of the Radix dApp toolkit that we provide for developers. This is something that you're likely to see show up on many web pages on Radix that basically provides this nice recognizable place to go, I know that this is a Radix dApp, I know how I can connect my wallet here, and it provides some nice features. So basically the user knows what they're sharing with an individual web page that they're on. So if I click Radix Connect here, it's going to say, connect now. I want to connect to this website. Okay, so I click connect, I say login request pending. Now this is different than you'd see with like MetaMask and every other crypto network. Normally when you connect your wallet, it's like, okay, here's your account address and that's who you are. You are just your account address and your website, and the website now can do stuff with that account address. What we know is like what we designed the Radix wallet around is the idea of a login is still really important. We're not going to really move from Web 2 to Web 3 without some sort of real login that identifies who you are, that's separate from the accounts and the tokens that you own. So this is why we have the notion of personas. Personas are something that you can use to log in to dApps on Radix. And so when you click connect, it's asking for a login using a persona. Now I haven't created any personas in my wallet yet, so it's prompting me on the wallet side here to create my first one. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll click create a new persona. And I'll just name this RadMatt. Cool, I just created it. Now you saw there was a quick little key derivation process that went on that looks a lot like creating an account. The reason is that personas actually have an on-ledger component to it. We have something called an identity that is on the Radix network, and basically that provides the security model for personas. It means that when you're logging in with a persona, you can actually sign that login with your phone, and the website knows that you are actually the person who controls that particular identity that's associated with that persona. It provides a nice secure login without having to have any kind of password. This is really nice because we really want to get rid of passwords, but we also don't want to fall back to something like passkeys where you're basically just storing a private key on Apple or Google servers. So in this case, you don't need that. So I've created my first persona. I'm going to select it to log in with, and I'm going to continue. At the same time as that login, Gumball Club wants something else from me. Of course, it wants me to log in and choose what persona I want to use, but it also needs a little bit more. It says I need to have one or more accounts to use Gumball Club. It's basically saying, look, I'm a DApp. I need to interact with assets. I don't just need a login, so you need to tell me about what accounts you want to use. It's kind of like, you know, I always like for Web3, I always like thinking whenever you're going to a DApp website, it's kind of like its own little world. You get to choose who you're going to be in that world and what you're going to bring with you. So the persona is who you are. And now in this case, it's saying, well, what do you want to bring with you? I need something. So I'm going to get an opportunity to choose at least one account that I'm going to share with Gumball Club. And so now it's giving me an option to select. I have these 3 different accounts that I've selected. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and pick all 3 of them. I'd say, yep, maybe I want to use any of those accounts with Gumball Club. So I select all 3 and I'll click continue. And that request response is now provided back to the DApp web page. So you can see a couple things have happened here over the DApp web page. And again, remember, this is like all of this back and forth is happening over this secure Radix Connect P2P link that I've got between my phone and my desktop. They don't have to be tethered together via USB or anything like that. It's just automatically doing this P2P. It's very, very nice and seamless. So over on the web page side of my desktop, I can see that now I've got information about the login. So I've logged in as RadMat. I'm sharing these 3 accounts. I can log out right here if I want to. And I also get a little bit of a history of what requests I've done with this particular DApp. And now the Radix Connect button is now showing me that I'm now logged in as RadMat here. So you'll see this on basically every Radix DApp that you interact with, and it gives you this really nice sense of who you're logged in as, what you're sharing with this website, and gives you some options. So now that I'm logged into Gumball Club, now let's actually use it. So the first thing I need to do is get some Gumball Clubs. So again, this is a little bit of a toy sort of thing, but you know, imagine you're in a store that has a bunch of different Gumball machines, and you need to have some tokens to stick in those machines to be able to get various kinds of candy. So we're just going to have a Gumball Club token dispenser. It's basically a little faucet that just spits out special little tokens. So I'm going to say, yep, I want to get tokens into, let's say, my first Babylon account, and there's a button here to send to the Radix wallet. So this is going to be my first transaction. And when I click this button, it's going to send that transaction to my wallet application to approve. And it looks like this. So if you've dug into the Radix technology, you know that we have a very special kind of transaction called a transaction manifest. We don't just do signed hashes of calls to smart contracts. We have this line-by-line description of what you as the user actually expect to happen. And what that allows us to do in the wallet is to summarize this in a really nice way. So this is a very simple transaction. What's going on here is I'm interacting with this Gumball Club DApp. It knows I'm basically calling this faucet component, which is part of the Gumball Club. And it identifies itself and verifies that it's part of the Gumball Club DApp, which is why you see that little using DApp section there. And really the result is just that I'm depositing 20 GC tokens, Gumball Club tokens, to my account. So that's exactly what I expected when I was on the web page. I see the same thing in my wallet. Cool, that sounds good. I know what the transaction fee is going to be, and I can go ahead and sign that transaction. So if I slide the sign, it does a quick verification. It's now submitting it to the Radix network, which is a little bit slow right now because it's on a test network. It's faster than this on mainnet. And there we go, successful transaction. And now the DApp webpage knows that that transaction completed successfully, and so it gives me a nice little success message. It says you received 20 Gumball Club tokens, and you can now take a look at those in your wallet. In fact, I can do that. If I tap on that first account, I can now see that, hey, I've now got 20 GC tokens, and I can look at a little bit of information about those tokens if I want. Cool. So let's use those tokens. Let's do a little bit more of an interesting transaction. Let's buy a Gumball. For those of you that have been following Radix for a long time, the Gumball machine is kind of our classic example of, you know, it's basically a toy version of a lot of things that you do in finance, where it's, you know, there's an interaction here where I want to put some tokens into a smart contract, which is the Gumball machine. And then I expect that Gumball machine, I expect that smart contract to return some different token to me. It's a simple purchase transaction, basically. So we actually have a Scripto component that's deployed to this network that represents this Gumball machine that knows how to accept GC tokens and spit back Gumball tokens. So I can use the UI here to interact with that smart contract, that component. So I pick one of these accounts. I'll pick that same account that I've got my tokens in. I can see that I've got that balance of 20 GC tokens. And as the price here says, it costs 2 GC tokens to buy 1 gumball. So I'll put 2 in here. And I can see that the result is going to be 1 gumball. Now that's what the web page tells me. It's telling me I'm going to get 1 gumball back. And on other networks, that's basically all you get. When you submit the transaction, it's going to go to your wallet. The wallet's going to say, there's a transaction here. Here's the hash of it. Sign it. You know, hopefully you trust that smart contract. On Radix, we can do much better than that. So when I send this to my Radix wallet, once again, I get this nice summary of the transaction. And you can see what's actually going on. This isn't trusting the web page. This is actually reading the real transaction that's going to be submitted to the Radix network. So I can see that this transaction includes withdrawing from my account 2 GC tokens. That makes sense. I'm then going to interact with the Gumball Club application. This is the smart contract part of it. And ultimately, the result of this is going to be depositing 1 Gumball token back to my account. Once again, there's no trust involved here. This is just the wallet looking at what's about to submit the network and going, this is what's actually going to happen. You can rely on it. So, of course, this is exactly what I expected. The web page wasn't lying to me. This is, you know, what I wanted. And so, once again, I'll slide to sign this transaction. It'll submit it to the network. And there we go. So once again, if I go back into that account, you can see that I now have my Gumball token in there. Cool. Let's go into the candy machine. Now this one, you might say like, all right, I kind of get the point, you know, like we don't need to go through these machines. The thing about the candy machine, it's a little bit different. This is basically a toy DEX. So we've got a market price estimate here. It's not, you know, you don't get a fixed amount of candies for your GC tokens. It depends on the, you know, let's say it's like the price of sugar right now or something, and it varies based on market price. And so you get some number of candies back. So if I do a transaction with this one, and let's say that I put in, once again, let's say 2 GC tokens, I'm going to get an estimate for what the result of that is going to be. And right now it says at the market price, it's going to be 29 tokens, but it can't really tell me for sure what it's going to be because again, you know, the price of sugar might go up or down in that period of time before I submit the transaction, just like you'd find if you're doing a swap on a DEX. So let's send this transaction to my wallet, see what it looks like. So it's similar to the other transaction, but a little bit different. In this case, once again, 2 GC tokens are leaving my account. I'm interacting with the Gumball Club dApp. And in this case, I'm depositing an estimated 29 candy to my account. This is different than you saw before. It didn't show you a different number. And the reason for that is that in the transaction that the web page has built for me, it can't tell me how many it can deposit because it knows that there's this market price. When I submit it, it might be 29, it might be 30, it might be 28. It's impossible to say for sure. And the transaction manifest actually includes that. It knows that this is an indefinite amount that's being deposited. But one of the wonderful things about the transaction manifest is I can still protect myself. I can customize those guarantees and I can choose, I can say, you know what, even though this is an estimate, I really need to get 29 candies back. Like if I don't get 29, I'm not interested in this whole thing. 28 isn't enough for me and I want to cancel the whole thing. You can set this guaranteed percentage that sets that threshold you're comfortable with based on what you expect out of the thing. So, you know, maybe it's like, yeah, I understand there's a market price difference. I can put a 90% in here and say, yeah, I'm willing to accept even down to like 26.1 candies. That would be fine for me. As long as it's more than that, I'm fine with it. And I can apply that. So now I can see that estimate, I can see the guarantee that I've applied to it, and once again, I can sign the transaction. Now, before I do that, one thing I want to say about those guarantees. Once again, this is not something that the dApp itself is providing. Gumball Club doesn't know anything about guarantees. It doesn't have like slippage protection built into its logic or anything like that. This is only in the wallet in the transaction manifest. The wallet is directly adding this guarantee to the manifest itself and saying, hey, Radix network, if this doesn't return at least 26 candies, please consider the transaction null and void. Don't process it. Regardless of what the dApp thinks about it, this is me expressing what I care about. That is really, really powerful, and it's not possible anywhere else. Okay, so let's go ahead and sign that transaction. Once again, submitting that to the network. And it's done. Oh, actually, you know what? I think it's not done. I think it might have actually failed. Yeah, look at that. The market price just went down to 12 candies. Ooh, sugar market is highly volatile. So actually, in this case, the guarantee just protected me. When it updated, I said, look, I need 26 candies. The market price apparently plummeted from the time that I was looking at the transaction, and the transaction failed. I don't have 12 candies in my account because that whole transaction was called off. So it worked. Without the DApp providing any of that protection, I was able to protect myself. So let me go ahead and do it again and say, like, just to process it, let me do another transaction here. And this time I'm going to be real generous about my guarantees to make sure it goes through. It's like, I only need 5%. I don't care. Just give me whatever. As long as I get one back, I'm happy. Sign that transaction. There we go. Okay. So it says apparently in the end I got 24 candy, and I can go into my account and I can see that I've got those 24 candy. Cool. I'm going to do one last thing here to give you an idea of like what sort of other assets you can do. Because one of the other things that we have on the Radix network that's quite unique is the idea of badges. A badge is basically, it's an asset, it's a token, but it's something that's used rather than being something that represents value, it represents your ability to authenticate to something. Just like a real badge, it's like having like an ID card in your real wallet where you can show it to someone and go, hey, this is who I am. I need to, I can get into this club, or I can, use Costco or whatever it is. So we can do that also on the Radix network. And so to show that off, we've got the GC member card machine that we can do. I can buy a member card, and that member card allows me to get a discount on the candy machines. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to buy myself a GC, costs 5 GC tokens. I'm going to go ahead and do that transaction. And there I can see that I am getting what I expect back. Sign it. And there we go. So now, if I go in my wallet to the NFTs section, I can see my Gumball Club member cards, and I can open this man up and say, okay, I can see that I have GC member card serial number 10. I've got apparently the 10th. I'm the 10th person to get a member card from the machine apparently in this deployment. And I can see the little key image. So if you had had an NFT that wanted to have an image, you can see that right there in the wallet. You don't need any special support because we have a metadata standard that allows you to actually see these things directly in the wallet. In fact, I can also just tap on it and see a little bit more information about it. I can see the ID, the name, maybe a description of it. All that stuff is built into the resource metadata right on the Radix network. It doesn't require special interpretation. It doesn't require special wallet support or DApp integration. We just know what's actually included on the resource. And we also didn't have to add that special NFT type to the wallet like you do on MetaMask to sort of tell it, hey, be aware that I might have some of this type of token. It just automatically sees it. And the reason for that is that our resources, our assets, are real things in your account. They're not just balances in a smart contract somewhere. So you're always going to see everything that's actually in your account at all times. You don't have to do anything manually. So I'll do one last transaction here to use that member card now that I've got it. Let me go back to the Gumball machine. Now you can see it can see that I own that member card. It's looking at my account and going, cool, you actually have one of those member cards, and it's telling me I'm going to get this discount. So now if I can just put in 1 GC token and get a Gumball, and if I send that to the wallet, you're going to see how that works. So now you can see there's the transaction I expect. 1 GC token leaving my account, 1 Gumball coming back. But now you can see at the bottom there's something new. It says presenting Gumball Club member card. What that means is that the actual transaction manifest I'm submitting to the network is we have this notion of presenting, of providing a proof that that resource is actually owned by my account. And that proof can be provided to the smart contract, to the component, and that's what allows me to get the discount. If I didn't actually have that resource, I would not be able to produce a proof of it, which means the smart contract would not provide me the discount on that purchase. So it's an on-ledger authentication that's very, very easy to use for developers, and it's very transparent to users where you can actually see when you're presenting a badge resource to do something like this. So I'll go ahead and sign to submit that transaction. It'll submit to the network. And that's it. So that's the Gumball Club. You can go check this out yourself. So when you get the Radix wallet, you can go there. We're going to have a little scheme set up so you can get like a little bit of XRD, just enough to do some transactions. If you don't have some already, you'll be able to go through that yourself, see how it actually feels in the Radix wallet. And that same basic pattern of logging in, doing transactions, seeing what's going to happen, setting guarantees, all that kind of stuff is what you're going to see on every single dApp in the Radix ecosystem, which we think is going to give users a much greater sense of confidence in engaging in Web3 and DeFi than was ever possible before. Now let's move on to the next topic. What I want to go through now is backing up your seed phrase. Now in this case, let's see, I'm just gonna reconfigure my windows a little bit here. Here we go. So all we need is the Radix wallet for this one. Now, you might have noticed that I have this little warning on my top account, my first Babylon account. You can see there's a little, maybe it's hard to see there, but there's a little warning there that says back up this account seed phrase. The reason we're seeing that warning is because that account actually has some tokens in it. The other account, so my second account, my super secure account, they don't have any tokens, so there's not really a reason to worry about that seed phrase so far. But once you do have accounts, it's going to prompt you to do that. So if you want to back up the seed phrase, we can just tap on that warning and I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll go into the account here. It just did a biometric authentication to make sure that I have the ability of looking at the seed phrase. And unfortunately, I can't actually show you this. So we have a security measure built into the wallet where if you're viewing a seed phrase, it does not actually share that to any screening. If I just take a screenshot right now, it wouldn't show the seed phrase. This is a security measure to make sure that you're not inadvertently allowing someone else to see your seed phrase, but you probably can't see it, but the seed phrase is on the screen here. And if you could just read that screenshot, there's no money in that account, so you don't get anything. But that's all there is to it. You can see that seed phrase, and then when I leave that screen, it's going to ask me to confirm. It says, have you actually backed this up? So have you actually written this down on a piece of paper, saved it someplace, so that if you need to recover, if you lose your phone and you need to come back, you're going to need that seed phrase to be able to recover control of that account. In fact, all of your accounts. And so you ask me to confirm that I've done that. So I say, yes, I've backed it up. And now if I go back to the main screen, that little warning has disappeared. Now, something again to say here is that this seed phrase scheme is something that we're doing while we're in this intermediate phase of before we have multi-factor implemented in the wallet. Multi-factor support is built into the account itself on the Radix network, but it's going to take a little time for us to implement it in the wallet UI and implement all the nice recovery features and so forth. So for right now, it's prompting you to do the seed phrase. It's kind of old-fashioned crypto. Write down your seed phrase. You'll need it if you need to recover. We make that as easy as possible. But once we do have multi-factor, that won't be the case anymore. Now, if you get some tokens in your account, it's going to prompt you to apply multi-factor security to that. It's going to ask you to set up maybe a third-party recoverer, a different, maybe some security questions, some things like that would help you secure your account and allow you to recover it so that even if you lose your phone, you don't actually need a seed phrase, unless you really want it. If you want to use a seed phrase, you'll still have the option as one of your factors, but you won't be required to. Okay. The other thing to mention is that the account is not stuck in that mode. So just because there's a seed phrase now doesn't mean that you're going to have to move your tokens once we get multi-factor. As I said, the accounts themselves are already multi-factor. It's just that the wallet isn't set up to take advantage of that feature right now. So once the wallet does have that feature, you'll just be able to apply multi-factor settings to exactly the same account. And now that seed phrase becomes obsolete. It's not like there's a hidden seed phrase and the multi-factor is just gating your access to that seed phrase. Literally, you'll be telling the account, hey, throw away that seed phrase, don't authenticate with that, use this multi-factor scheme. That's the only thing that matters to you. The fact that we have account components allows us to do this. There's no secret seed phrase if you don't want it, which is quite revolutionary, we think. So next I want to talk about wallet backups. So as we talked about, for now, until we have multi-factor implemented, you're going to have to use a seed phrase to recover control of your accounts. But there's a lot more to your wallet than just your account addresses and your seed phrase. As we've seen, we've got personas, we've got account names, we've got all these settings, we've got guarantees, all these things that you'd like to have that stuff saved so that if you lose your phone, you can get back to where you started again. And so the way we do that is we have a separate wallet backup that allows you to recover access to all that stuff. Those backups do not include your seed phrase. And in fact, once we get multi-factor support, we don't need the seed phrase at all. You can just recover all that information from your wallet backup and get back to where you were started using the multi-factor mechanism to recover control. But let's see what that backup looks like to see what the options are. So we can look at this in the wallet app. If I go to the gear icon in the upper right for settings, I can go into app settings and backups. And here you can see that we are by default backing up to the cloud. So we're backing up to iCloud on iOS and we're backing up to G Drive on Android. You can turn that off if you want to, but I think it's a reasonable default because, again, there's nothing security critical in this backup. It's just a description of all the stuff that you had in your wallet. These were the accounts you had. These are the names of those accounts. These were the gradient colors that you'd applied to those accounts. These are your personas. This is the data that you'd associate with these personas. Here are all your app settings, all that kind of stuff. We back that up to the cloud without seed phrases, without anything security critical, and so that's quite safe. But if you want to, you can turn that cloud backup off if you want to. And if you like, we then offer a manual file-based backup option here where you can tap that button, it'll save off a file, and you can use that file to recover access to that same stuff later. If you go through that recovery process, for now, you'll start by importing that. Now the wallet knows what you had, and it's going to ask you for the seed phrase that it needs to be able to control those things, to control your personas and control your accounts. Once again, once we have multi-factor, we won't even have to do that. It's just going to be, all right, cool. Let's get you started again. Let's use your multi-factor features to recover control. That file-based backup will also allow you to move between OSs. So for example, if you started on iOS and you decided you actually wanted to use your wallet on Android, you could export that file, import it on Android, and you'd be back to where you started. The last feature on this is the delete wallet and iCloud backup. If you want to just completely wipe everything, you want to be done with this, we have provide an option. Obviously, we put many warnings in front of that because it's not something you want to do casually, but the option is available to you there. So that's backups. Now I want to talk about doing transfers in the Radix wallet. Obviously, we don't want to have to go out to Adapt just to send tokens around. We expect that we can just send tokens inside the wallet itself. But one of the nice things is that with the Babylon wallet and using some of the Babylon Network's features, we actually have quite a bit more power built into the wallet to do those transfers. So I can show you what that looks like. So if we go over here to the wallet, you can see I've got those accounts I've created. I've got some tokens in there. I'm going to go into the first account and I'm going to send some tokens to another one of my accounts. So you can see that transfer button at the top. I'm going to hit that. And here we get a screen to set up that transfer. Now, on most networks, a transfer is just this one-to-one thing where you say, okay, I'm sending from account A to account B of this amount of token. The reason for that is that's kind of how tokens work on every other account. A token is a smart contract, and a transaction is basically a single call to a smart contract. So you can send a message to that token smart contract to say, hey, please transfer some tokens from my account to this other account, and it will adjust the balances inside its own little ledger sheet inside the smart contract. That's how a transfer works on every other network. However, on Radix, it's this much more intuitive thing. We actually have assets as a native feature of the network, and in our case, a transfer is a transaction manifest that literally describes, I want to withdraw tokens from one account and I want to deposit those tokens to another account. What this means is it's trivial for us to build a transaction manifest that actually interacts with multiple accounts and multiple assets at the same time. Literally on every other network, this would require another smart contract that knows how to do multi-sending and stuff like this, which is kind of crazy for something as simple as just sending tokens around. So in this case, I've already got the from selected. It's the account I was in. And I can choose, let me say, my second account. And then I can add assets. So what assets do I want to send to that account? And I can choose multiple if I want to. So let's say I want to send some XRD and I want to send some candy at the same time. So I select both of those. I can also send NFTs if I want to, just as easy. But let me just send these two tokens. So I choose those two assets. And you can see that it's set up both of those transfers together. So let's say maybe I send 10 XRD and 5 candy tokens. I could also add another account here if I wanted to. So if I want to do a send from my account to multiple accounts, again, super easy for us to do. So you just add another account, choose what assets, and it'll create the transaction manifest to do all this stuff. But let's say I'm just going to stick to one account, but two different assets in that. So I hit continue, and the wallet will build the transaction manifest to do that. And I see what's actually going to be submitted to the network. So as described, I can see that I'm withdrawing 10 XRD and 5 candy from one account, and I'm depositing 10 XRD and 5 candy to another account. Simple as that. This isn't two different transactions that are batched together. This is actually one transaction, but that transaction describes these multiple actions. It describes two different withdrawals and two different deposits. This is how it's so easy for us to be able to do things with multiple accounts and multiple assets. It's really no more complex than a simple one-to-one transfer. And it's done atomically. It is one transaction, which means that if I, for example, just had 2 candy right now instead of 5, which means this transaction's invalid, it can't be processed, it's not as if just the candy part will fail, the entire thing will fail. If I didn't have enough and I submitted this, the XRD wouldn't transfer and the candy wouldn't transfer because they must be committed atomically together as part of that transaction. Again, this isn't possible on any other network without deploying a special smart contract to do this sort of conditional send, which is kind of crazy. But in Radix, just a simple transaction manifest, I slide to sign, and that's it once it completes. Test network is slow. There we go. And that's it. That was transfers in the wallet. Next feature I want to talk about is account settings, and specifically the third-party deposit setting that we have. Which is another one of these great features that's enabled by the Radix network, but we expose it through the UI in the Babylon wallet. So I'm already in an account here. I'm in my first Babylon account, and I've got some tokens in there and that sort of thing. And if I want to look at settings for that account, you can see the little the dot 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 in the upper right hand corner. I'm going to tap that. And I've got some settings in here. So V1.0, this is very simple. We're going to add more settings in the future. Right now, you can, if you want to, you can change the name on the account. But importantly, you've got this third-party deposits option here. This is something that's really not possible on any other network, and it's enabled by the smart account system. Our accounts aren't just key pairs. They're not just an address. It's actually a functional component that actually can have some configuration. And so the third-party deposits section here allows me in the wallet to configure those settings and push them into my smart account on the Radix network. Third-party deposits, what this is the setting that basically allows you to give you some control over things like airdrops. It's the idea that on every other network, anybody can deposit any token they want to your account. All they need is your address, and they can push whatever token there. Again, that's kind of because tokens are implemented as smart contracts, and you can't control the logic in somebody else's smart contract. So if there's some token contract that says you now own 30 dumb coins, you own 30 dumb coins. You may not know about it, but you can't do anything about it either. This is really annoying because even if you have a wallet that sort of like automatically reads all the smart contracts, you just have all these airdrop tokens that you may not want. Maybe you do want them, but you've got no control. You've got no choice of this. The nice thing is that with smart accounts, we actually can provide this control over it. And we provide a few different controls here that allows you to be very specific about how you want, what sort of ability you want for third parties to be able to deposit things to your account without you being involved. Obviously, you can deposit whatever you want to your own account. If you're signing the transaction and you're submitting it, you can deposit anything. So if you're interacting with a DEX or whatever, you never have to worry about this. But if someone else is sending you a token, whether it's an airdrop or something else, they're going to have to meet these rules. So the first thing at the top here is you can see that there's a general setting for accept all deposits, only accept known, or deny all. And this is the bulk default setting. When you first create an account, it's set to accept all deposits. It's like, cool, here's an account, anybody can send stuff to it. But if you want to say like, no, I really don't want airdrops to this account, you can use one of the other settings. Only accept known means that only a third party that's depositing an account, is depositing an asset that account has seen before can be deposited. So let's say that, you know, you'd had some Zombo coin at some point in the past. You may or may not have some currently, but the account still keeps a record of the fact that you once had Zombo coin. Now anybody can deposit Zombo coin to that account because you've decided, hey, that's an okay coin. This is one that I care about. Anybody can deposit that, even if they want to airdrop it to me. That's what that second setting does. XRD is always included in that, by the way. XRD is always considered a known token since it's so common. Generally, anybody can send you XRD. The last option, though, deny all, is where, you know, maybe you're an institution or you're someone that you're like very, very cautious about your account. You say, look, I literally never want anybody, any third party, to be able to deposit anything to this account. The only thing that goes into this account are tokens that I am submitting myself. I am submitting my own transactions to deposit. No one else can deposit. You have that option if you want to. This is going to be useful to some people. Some people aren't going to want to go this far. Then at the bottom of the screen, we have another couple of options here to allow or deny specific assets or allow specific depositors. This provides you a little bit more granular control. So for example, allow or deny specific assets allows you to say, here is a particular type of asset, a particular NFT or a particular fungible token or whatever, and you can say, look, regardless of what my other settings say, I always want to accept this. Or, regardless of what my other settings say, I always want to decline this. This allows you to provide those specific exceptions to your bulk rule on the account. So this might be useful for, you know, let's say you wanted to have the account in no deposit mode, you know, full no airdrop mode, but maybe you wanted to be able to, if there was a token you were trading on an exchange and you wanted that exchange to be able to deposit tokens to your account when you're withdrawing, you might add those resources that you care about to your exceptions to make sure that they can be deposited. Specific depositors is an interesting thing where what it allows you to do is to say the bearer of a given badge resource is allowed to deposit to my account. This is useful basically for dApp builders. So if a dApp is saying like, look, I'm building a dApp where I'm expecting to be able to deposit lots of things to your account. Maybe it's like, I've got some sort of like royalty system where I'm going to be distributing tokens to your account or whatever. And that needs to be happening while you're offline. What they can do is the dApp builder can create a badge that says, this is the badge that represents my dApp. And you can add that badge's resource address to this to the depositors exception. And now the bearer of that badge can always deposit to your account, regardless of what your other settings say. So you've got full control of this, and we think this is going to be something the dApp developers are going to find useful in time. So we've got a very simple implementation of it right now, but it's going to get more elaborate in the future. So that's the account settings. We hope that's going to be useful for a lot of people to be able to kind of like control their airdrop problem, because this is something that we've heard a lot of people say for really good reason, that can be quite annoying. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the Radix dashboard, and specifically doing lookups, looking at your account history, and doing network staking using the Radix dashboard. It's a little bit of a kind of a Swiss Army knife to do a few different things that you may want to do on the Radix network, and it provides you a nice dApp UI to be able to do those things. So let me switch over to showing you my windows. So I've got set up here my wallet on the right, and I've got the Radix dashboard pull up on the left. The URL is wrong. I'm on a test network right now, but ultimately this is going to be at dashboard.radixdlt.com. It's very simple in the version 1.0. We're obviously going to be adding more features to this in the future, but right now it's really focused on two things. One is doing lookups, kind of like Etherscan. You should be able to just look up things on the network, whether it's resources or accounts, or identities or anything else, like components, all that kind of stuff you can look up by their address. And it also has a network staking feature that provides you a nice dApp UI to be able to participate in staking your XRD to the Radix network. So I'll show you both of those things. First thing I'm going to do is, because this is an actual real Radix Web3 dApp, I can connect to it. So I'm going to click connect here and log in to the dashboard. So it sends a login request to my phone. I've already created my RadMat persona. I could create a different persona if I wanted, but that one's fine. I'm going to log in with that persona. It's also going to ask me for permission to look at some accounts. So this is primarily for the staking feature. Obviously, if it's going to provide me a UI for staking, it needs to know what accounts do I want to use to do staking from. So I'm going to share some accounts here. In fact, I'll just share all 3 of the accounts that I've created. And the response goes back to the dApp. That here's the login. I'm logged in as RadMat. Here are the accounts that I'm sharing. And here I'm logged in as RadMat. So First of all, let's look at the lookups. And an easy one to do is to do an account address lookup. So I'm actually going to, for convenience, I'm going to pull this menu up again, and I'm just going to copy one of these addresses. So I'm going to click the copy button here, and now I've got the address for one of my accounts. So if I paste that in to the search field here, so this is the full account address rather than the abbreviated one, and hit return, and it'll bring up some information about that account. So it'll show me a listing of the accounts, the tokens that are in the account. I can even see the NFTs in here, and I can go to recent transactions. So this is going to be useful. If you want to see a history of account, this is the easiest way to do it for right now. You can put your account address here, you can go to this recent transactions history, and you can see more information about some of those transactions that have happened. Very, very simple for now. Again, this is V1.0. We're going to be adding more features to this as well. And also a future update to the Radix wallet is going to enable an in-app history view. That's obviously something that we need to have in there. It didn't quite make the cut for V 1.0. We've got some really cool ideas for a very nice to use history view that allows to do some filtering and stuff like this. But that UI is going to take a little bit of work, so it's not in the very first release. For now, you can get the basics of app history, or of account history rather, on the dashboard. So you can do the same thing here. Let's say if I searched for, let's say, the candy token and did a search for that, I can see more information about the candy token. I can see it's associated with the Gumball Club. This is an interesting feature we have where we use metadata to provide a verified association with various dApps. In fact, I can click on that dApp and see more information about it. A dApp is basically a special kind of account that has some metadata on it. So you can go around and you can look all this kind of stuff up on the dashboard, just basic utility function. Okay. But obviously the other major feature is network staking, and we provide a really nice interface through the dashboard to do that staking. So let me show you that now. What you can do is in the top bar here, click network staking, and it's going to take you to a pretty full view of information about validators on the Radix network and allow you the tools to do staking. You can actually do this even without logging into if you want to. It'll just show you the validator list. But if you want to actually do staking, obviously you need to connect because it's going to have to interact with your wallet. So if I scroll down here, I can see the list of validators. Now these are, I'm on the test network right now, so these are not the real validators. So these just happen to be some validators that are operating on our test network. So these are a bunch that we're running, and we've got some people in our community that are testing out their own validator deployments on the test network. So this is very cool. And so what I'm going to want to do here is do some staking. Now, obviously we encourage people to stake to multiple validators. It provides more decentralization, and it also provides you some protection of basically not putting all your eggs in one basket to make sure that, if one validator happens to go offline and you lose emissions from that validator, you're still getting it from other validators that you'd stake to. So what you can do is select multiple. So let me go down here and let me just pick off 3 of these validators that I like. Now you can choose before I go into the staking, we've got quite a bit of information that you can view here on different validators. So you can see the total amount of stake to that node. You can see the percentage of that stake that's being provided by the node owner itself. We have an estimate here of the APY. This is an estimate that's based on a few things because we know that the APY is a little bit difficult to understand for people. What you can do is you can choose the time frame that you want to look at the performance of that validator. So it's like, okay, over the last 3 months, what was the uptime of those validators? And based on that uptime and based on the fee that validator is charging, it'll calculate for you the effective APY for stakes to that validator. You're going to find those APY numbers are actually really similar because the fee is just a percentage that they take off of the total amount. And as long as people are operating at 100%, you're going to see pretty similar APYs, but nonetheless, we're going to show that to you pretty directly. That's not working actually in this testnet version, but this will be on mainnet. We've also got some other filters in here that allows you to kind of filter down on like which validators you want and what's important to you. But at the end of all that, let's say that these are the 3 validators that I wanted to stake to. So I'm going to click stake to selected. And we get kind of like, it's sort of like a shopping cart view here on the dApp. So I'm going to say, I can choose which account I want to stake from. I can choose any of the 3 accounts that I've chosen. I'll just stick with my first account here. And then I can choose how I want to do that staking. So the simplest is I might say, okay, I want to stake 1,000 XRD total, and it'll distribute that automatically between validators. Or if I want to, maybe I want to change those numbers. I want to do like 100 here and 150 here, and it'll add that up. But let's keep it simple actually, and let's just do, let's say 900 to everybody, so everybody gets 300. So I'm going to send this to Radix Wallet, and this is going to be, so this is all just kind of a UI to compose this transaction, but ultimately the wallet is where this is going to have to be approved. Now, here's one of these things I'm going to have to explain about V1.0 that is not desired, but it's the way it is because we had to make some choices for mainnet launch. What you're seeing here is a raw transaction manifest. The reason you're seeing this is that when the wallet receives a transaction manifest, it attempts to match it to a set of patterns that we've got. So general dApp interactions, like on the Gumball Club, it's like, this is very simple. Tokens out, interacting with a component, tokens in, cool. We can show the user a nice simple summary, and that summary is something that is reliable. The user can rely that that is actually what's going to happen that matters to me. We need to put one of those transaction summary views in for staking. That didn't make it for V1.0. We expect this is going to be going in very soon because obviously this is unfortunate. We know this is bad. But in the beginning, you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're looking at, this is actually the raw transaction manifest. And if you want to, you can see what these things look like. You can see that I'm withdrawing some tokens and I'm doing these staking transactions to those 3 different validators. So, if you're a tech head, this is actually kind of cool that's actually what the transaction is. It's not just some vague hash that you're signing, but obviously we're going to be putting in a nice summary view for this in the very near future so it looks better for average users. Okay, so when I want to do the stake, I'll slide to sign. It's going to submit that transaction to the Radix network. This will take a moment on the test network. It will be faster on mainnet. And there we go. So that was successful. It takes me back here. And now on the dashboard, it shows me, all right, you've got a total of 900 XRD staked. It shows me that these are the validators that I'm currently staked to. So I've got this new section. I can still scroll down and see the total validator list, but this gives me kind of the snapshot of like the performance of the validators that I clearly care about because I'm actually staked to them. So I can see the total amount I've got staked to each one of those, and I can see how much I'm unstaking from them, which is right now 0. But let's say that I did want to unstake from somebody a little bit. Not to pick on anybody, I'll just select this one. Actually, let me go in here and say I want to request an unstake. Actually, before I do that, let me show you one quick thing here. So if I go into that account, if I go over here, I can now actually see those stakes. So as you might have read, staking on the Radix Babylon network is liquid staking, which means when you stake tokens, you receive in return a liquid stake unit token that represents that contribution. This is the thing that when you unstake, you're going to take that liquid stake token back and send that back to the validator, and then the validator will start the unstaking process and start the required delay before you can claim the XRD back. This is all system operated. So the validator, the liquid stake units, these are all created by the system. Individual validators have no direct control of this. So there's no sense in which you are trusting your XRD to a third party. You're actually sending it to a system component, and the Radix wallet recognizes that this is an actual real validator component. This is an actual real valid liquid stake unit token, and so it can show you the real value of those tokens at any given point in time. It's a little bit actually wrong right now. It's showing 299. It's doing a round off error. This is something that we need to fix. There's kind of some fractional stuff due to the arithmetic of the stake units. But you can see those tokens in the wallet there, and you can see what your stakes are. But back on the website here, let's see. I was gonna unstake here. So let's say I want to request an unstake from this validator. Let's say I just want to unstake 10 XRD. So let me send that to the Radix wallet. Once again, unfortunately, we get the raw transaction manifest. This will show you a nice unstaked transaction ultimately. I'm gonna sign that. And there we go. So now if I go back over here to my stakes, I can see both the amount that I've still got staked, and I can see the amount that's unstaking.